We're continuing our exploration of Battletech damage, and last week I pushed up to the playlist here on my channel. We looked at engine hits. So now we're looking center torso, left torso, right torso. Let's look at the gyro, because in my opinion, an engine hit is the worst that you can sustain. A gyro is secondary, but it's influenced a lot by the mech and the role that we're exploring. So this idea, just to framework it really fast, you're taking damage with your mech. You're running those internal calculations as a mech warrior. How much damage can I take? How much longer is this machine going to be on the table? Do I stay in the fight? Do I pull back and preserve my mech, but at least keep that initiative sync? And running all these calculations, different levels of damage. The challenge with taking center torso damage is how the damage transfers. There are some episodes, some games, some battles where you might just take mostly left torso, right torso, core torso damage. But for the most part, usually it's you start taking it in the arm, maybe the leg, an arm gets blown off, now it transfers. Left torso gets blown off, it transfers. The damage transfer diagram means as your machine takes more hits, it suddenly cascades. And as new mech warriors, new players to the game, that can take you by surprise. If I'm missing my left arm and I take a hit there, it doesn't mean it's a miss. It means it gets transferred to that next slot. Very, very quickly, you're going to fold. Now, gyros are interesting because they're controlling the movement of your machine. And with the hits that you take, it goes from penalties to essentially being destroyed and immobilized. If you're playing an assault mech and you kind of stand in place, or you're walking and you're navigating that, you're not doing any kicks, you're not doing any jumps, you're not trying to navigate dangerous terrain, your legs are working fine, so there's no modifiers there, a gyro hit is less catastrophic. It's not going to build heat. It's not really going to affect anything from that perspective. If you're a medium mech, it becomes very catastrophic. We'll put lights aside for a moment because medium mechs still have enough speed. They're pretty quick. And with the weapons that they do have, they're looking to be in the right place at the right time. They're looking to move and shoot, run and jump, be very dynamic. If I'm suffering modifiers for that and I'm making pilot checks, even with a good pilot skill, if you're playing with those optional rules, I'm going to roll the dice. Eventually, I'm going to fail, I'm going to fall, and I'm in a lot of trouble. So at the lower weight ends, in my opinion, gyro hits become very catastrophic. Light mechs. Well, light mechs are interesting. I won't say you have to worry about engine and gyro hits and catastrophic damage, but by the time you get to internals, your mech's literally falling apart and getting cut in half. It just doesn't have the armor to sustain that many hits. But occasionally there is some crazy stuff. I was playing a game with a spider, and I got hit with a medium laser to the center torso. Took that shot. Immediately roll for damage location. Well, I got hit. Roll for location, 2. Roll for potential crit. Crit confirmed. Roll for location, gyro. I got hit there. That's massive. That's massive because a light mech is always going to be running. So now I've got those modifiers. I've got those checks. What I did in that instance was, since we're talking about the spider and it wasn't a recon mission, and I've only got those lasers in the center torso, that's a little bit of zappy. But I pulled back. I pulled the wave back to my deployment zone, put it on guard duty with my missile carriers, and essentially took the mech out of the game. Yes, that battle value buy-in was not working, but I wanted to preserve at least the initiative. I didn't want to lose that initiative sync with the loss. So on light mechs, it's very catastrophic, in my opinion and experience, but that really doesn't happen as much because if it's that happening, your light mech's going to be cored out. But medium mechs are where gyro hits are a major problem. Heavies and assaults, in my opinion, not so much. Now, if you're playing with the optional rules, a little bit of a twist onto heavy and assault mechs. If you're playing with the optional rules where you take a certain threshold of damage, you have to make a pilot check. A gyro lost there with that modifier, that's I'll roll the dice, but we got to see what happens. And if I fall down, I got to get up, but I've also got that modifier. Sometimes you have to think about that with where you park your heavier and assault mech, because if I'm not moving and I'm not stacking those modifiers, I am going to take a lot more hits. And while I might be able to eat it on my armor in theory with the optional rule, Makes sense. I'm getting hit by a lot of stuff. I got to make sure to see if I don't fall over or fall to the side from those hits. So I would place gyro secondary to engine. Now we're going to move to the head with certain things. Next couple of vlogs. I will say life support, I really don't consider a problem because by the time you get hit with life support and that gets cored out, you're pretty much dead anyway. It's more like sensors and other systems in that head. And I do find with the head, just to framework it, that's the rarest amount of crits and confirmed crits that I take or that we seem to take because usually your head gets blown off by the time that happens. You know, you eat a PPC, you eat a couple of shots, and the head's gone. We don't have to worry about those internals. But we're going to look at the head. Then we're going to look at some subsystems with heat sinks and weapons and how to navigate that. And then we'll move to the lower legs because those rules are a little bit obscure. And it really depends on the hex map, the terrain that you're playing on. So you want to be aware of it, not from the perspective of like, I'm afraid to take that type of damage, but we want to be aware of it to navigate it because if not, you'll go to do something, certain modifiers, certain penalties, and that might create some problems.